Okay, since we're starting integers, good timing, Jacob. Let's talk about what an integer is, give you some definitions and some concepts before you start doing these problems. Now, an integer is a whole number that is either greater than 0, which makes it positive, or less than 0, which makes it negative. So basically, it's a set of numbers that includes whole numbers and their opposites, which would be the negatives. You can visualize these numbers on a number line. And here's an example. A lot of times you're going to want to use a number line initially so that you can understand the different rules that are going to be applied today. Now, what is a number line? A line with arrows on both ends that shows the integers with the slash marks, and you guys saw it. Arrows show the line goes to infinity, so you can do it as long as you need to do it. I wouldn't recommend that. I would just trust the rules. Uses of negative signs, you use a negative symbol like this, but you can also use a positive sign, but it's not required, because if I write positive 3, I can write it as this symbol and a 3, or I can just write 3. So just 3 by itself means it's positive. 0 is neither positive or negative. 0 is just the origin. It's the beginning of where you're going to start your number line, okay? So don't be putting a plus 0 or a negative 0, okay? Because there's no such thing. 0 is 0. Remember, the opposite means the opposite on the number line. So if I have a negative 72, its opposite is positive 72. If I have a positive 100, its opposite is negative 100. So that's what we mean by opposites. So in this case, I said a positive 6, its opposite would be a negative 6. If I have a negative 2, its opposite would be a positive 2. So you need to understand opposites. Also, absolute value. Absolute value is used all the time. If you guys took like a pre-algebra class that had a lot of absolute value problems in their equations, you guys would really get a handle on absolute value. All I really want you to remember about absolute value is that you need to do the distance. So let's just talk a little bit about what absolute value is. I'm going to play this little video, and it's going to give you an idea of what we mean.
It's so freezing today, RJ. I wonder what the temperature is.
I think it's like -2. Hot chocolate was a good idea.
Yeah, at least it'll warm us up a little bit. It better not get any colder. -2 is like Arctic chill.
Zoe, average Arctic winter is like -30 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't think we're in for quite that deep a freeze.
-30? Sheesh. How low do these negative numbers go?
Just as low as positive numbers go high. Whether they're positive and above 0 or negative and below 0, all whole numbers and their opposites are called integers.
Integers, huh?
Integer actually means whole in Latin. Integers are all whole numbers and their opposites. That means the ones on the thermometer, the ones we count with, floors in a building, steps up some stairs.
Okay, I think I get the idea. Well, what about 0?
Well, 0 is an integer too. It may be near the bottom of the thermometer, but it's at the center of the number line.
The center? Not the beginning?
0 is definitely at the center. It's where both positive and negative numbers start. If you move right, you get 1, 2, 3, positive numbers. If you move left, you dip below 0. -1, -2.
-3, -4. I get it. One side's positive and the other is negative.
Exactly. Every positive number has an opposite negative number. Opposite numbers have the same absolute value.
But that makes no sense. How can a negative number have the same value as a positive number?
Well, absolute value is just a number's distance from zero, whether it's negative or positive. Think about it this way. Let's say that where you're standing is zero. If you take 2 steps forward, it's 2 steps. If you take 2 steps backward, it's still 2 steps, even though it's backward or negative.
Ah, that makes sense. What about a half a step?
No halves allowed. Remember, integer means whole. No fractions. No almosts.
Well, okay then, even better. Who wants halfway when you can have the whole thing? Let me run through this integer stuff and see if I've got it straight. Integers are all whole numbers and their opposites. They can be positive, negative, or even zero. Either way, the absolute value of a number is its distance from zero. And the absolute value of my integer know-how?
A perfect 10.
Okay, so when we talk about absolute value, we are talking about the distance from zero. It is never negative. So the absolute value of a negative 7 is positive 7. The absolute value of positive 7 is also 7, okay, because it's a distance. Do you guys understand that? Okay. So absolute value, which is always denoted with 2 vertical lines, means how far from zero. So anytime you see that symbol, you need to say that to yourself. How far is this from zero? And I don't use a negative number, okay? So we're going to use absolute value in our definitions for addition today because I want to go over the 2 rules for addition of positive and negative numbers. So here is another example with the symbol. If I have the absolute value of negative 8, as you guys see right here, that value is 8. And the absolute value of positive 8 is also 8 because the distance from 0 is 8 in both cases. Another example, the absolute value of 50 is 50. And the absolute value of negative 50 is also 50 because they both are 50 spaces away from 0. That's what absolute value means. Here's the mathematical definition, but I just like how far from 0 personally because it's easier to understand. The absolute value of a number is the distance the number is from 0 point on the number line. And they used 4s. So noting that if I have the absolute value of 9 plus the absolute value of negative 9, what is my answer? 18, because they both are going to be equal to 9. Okay, now what can we do with these integers? We can add them, we can subtract them, we can multiply them, and we can divide them. Today I'm going to talk about adding integers. Now, there's 2 rules for adding. Let's see if I already listed them here. Same sign rule. If you're adding integers and they have the same sign, then the answer will have that exact sign. So if I have a positive number that I'm adding to a positive number, my answer will have a positive sign. If I have a negative number and I'm adding another negative number, my answer will have a negative sign. Here's some examples. If I have negative 3 plus a negative 10, I'm going to get a negative 13. You just add them and keep the negative. If I have a positive 6 and a positive 8, when I add those two, I get 14, and 14 is positive. So the same sign rule is the very first rule for addition. Here's some more examples. Now, This is where it gets tricky, and you have to remember this rule. If the signs are different, you need to take the difference of the absolute value of the numbers and then choose the sign that's further from 0. So let me give you an example here. If the integers have different signs, subtract, that's the difference, the numbers, and use the sign of the number furthest from 0. So, if the bigger number happens to be positive, your answer will be positive. If the bigger number is negative, then your answer will be negative, because that means you're on the negative side of the number line. So here's an example. If you have negative 13 and you're adding a positive 7, the two signs are different. The absolute value of negative 13 is 13. The absolute value of 7 is 7. Take the difference. 13 minus 7 is 6. Which one is further from 0? The 13, and it's negative. So your answer is going to be negative 6. You have to use the sign of the 13 because it's further from 0, and it's a negative 13. Here's another example. 23 plus a negative 8. If I take the difference of their absolute values, 23 minus 8 is 15. Which one of these terms is furthest from 0? The 23 is. So 23 happens to be positive. It's on the positive side of the number line, so your answer is going to be positive. It's further from 0. Okay, we can run through those examples again. Sure.
And those, so questions like this where you have a negative plus a positive,
Mm-hmm.
is you're always going to subtract.
Yeah, always going to take the difference of those. That's right. And let's see. I gave you guys that rule on page 2 and 3 in your packet. You can look at those rules. Okay, so let's do a little bit of computation before you get done with your packet. Whoa, I didn't realize that was so loud. Sorry. The study jams was so low. All right, so I'd like you to all do these problems real quick. These should not be hard to do using the two rules. Remember, if you have a positive and a negative, take the difference and then use the sign of the number that was further from 0. So on the first one, 5 plus a negative 6, what's the answer? Negative 1. Okay? Do these quickly. Let's get these up. Yeah, you can come up and write it. That's great. You got the answer? Come on up. Everybody's got some answers, huh? I love it. Thank you. Thank you. You can take that one. Somebody must have printed that out. You're welcome. Okay, we still got 2 more. Alicia? That's because everybody's putting their answers up. All right, now those of you that are sitting down now, check your classmates' answers. I see that bottom one. Whoever did that bottom one, the sign is wrong. Fix that, Alicia. Yeah, a negative 2 plus a negative 2.
2 plus negative 2? Oh, that's okay.
All right, you forgot the negative. Okay. All right, do you see any others that need to be fixed? Does everything else look okay with all the answers there? Okay, so let's run through them. So the second one should be -3. And the next one should be +2. And then we should have a +1. And 0 is good. And 0 is good. +4. And a -4. Yeah, just be careful that you are definitely using the two rules. If the signs are the same, you keep the same exact sign. Well, even if you did the absolute value, you would get 2 + 2 is 4. You don't need to do the absolute value because they both have the same sign. But furthest from 0 is a -2, so it's still got to be negative. So remember, like signs, 5 + 5 is how much? 10. -5 + -5 is how much? -10. Then the next rule is, unlike signs, that's when you do the absolute values. You take the difference of the absolute values. Then you use the sign of the one furthest from 0. So -6 + 8 will be +2. And 6 + -8, -2. Okay. So you guys pretty sure you got it. All right, fill these ones in. Make sure you put the right answer. Okay. Now, as you guys are sitting down, be sure to check your classmates' work and give them a heads up if they have something wrong, okay? Okay, I still need, okay, Alicia, Clint, you gonna come up and do one? They're -6, -6, added together. Yeah, go ahead and do the bottom one because Clint said he wants to review it. Okay. So the first one you guys got 0. Okay, and the second one you have 3. And the third one you have -2. The next one you guys have, wait, why is this a +6?
Okay, I'm gonna fix that.
Fix it, fix it. You guys didn't even tell him. You're supposed to give him a heads up.
It was funny because I was like, I got that answer. I was like, oh.
So -6, all right, and then +2 is right. -2 is right. Then you, Alicia got -12 is right. Then she got -6, which is right, and then she got 0. That's right. Okay. So today you only need to understand those two rules about like signs and unlike signs. Okay. Now, did I put any subtraction in here? Okay. I didn't put too much in it, did I? Let me just give you guys a quick heads up on subtraction. For subtraction, and on Monday we will go through subtraction in more detail with lots more problems. But for today, all you need to know is if you're subtracting, you're going to do this thing called plus the opposite. That's the way I teach it. And so if you had 7 minus a negative 4. And I told you to evaluate that expression. You're going to go to the subtraction sign here, and you're going to change it to its opposite. And the opposite of subtraction is addition. So what you're going to go plus, then look at the sign to the number immediately to the right, and then do the opposite. So what's the opposite of negative 4? Positive 4. Okay? And then after you have done plus the opposite, use the addition rules. So what's the rules for addition now that I have addition here? And that will be what? 11. So that's all you really need to know, and we'll go into a lot more detail on Monday, but you do have a few subtraction ones on here. Because you're still using the addition rules, you just have to do plus the opposite. Let me give you one more example. Let's say that you have a negative 10 and you're subtracting 3. You're going to change, you're going to go to the subtraction sign. See, this is a negative 10, so this is not the subtraction sign. Here's the subtraction sign. So I'm going to go plus, I'm going to change that to plus. And what's the opposite of positive 3? Negative. So now I have negative 10 plus negative 3. So how much is my answer? You have to add them together and then put the same sign, because they're both the same sign. And I just add. Now, I think this Study Jams takes us to Study Jams, but let's do the test yourself to see if you guys got it. Okay? Which list of numbers has all integers? The first one, the second one, the third one, or the fourth one. Can you guys see it? Let me see if I can. The second one, Alicia says. Can I make this bigger?
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, that's too big, isn't it? Let me try 150. Is that big enough, you guys, for you to see?
Yeah.
That's better? Okay. So does the whole class say that it's the second one? That's what Alicia says. Okay. Which integer is the opposite of negative 24? 24, okay.
Oh, 24, sorry. That's 2.4.
All right, are we good?
And now.
Okay, which number has an absolute value of 12? Which one? Number 2. The temperature in a city is negative 2 degrees. What is the absolute value of this temperature?
2.
Okay. Which integer is found 3 units to the left of 8? No, of 8. Positive 8. It'll be positive 5. It's the same as saying negative 3 plus 8, right? Okay. Now you guys might have some story problems like this on your test, so you need to be able to figure those out. Maya's mother gave her $5 to buy lunch at school. Maya bought a sandwich. After she paid for it, she had $2 left. Which integer represents the amount Maya spent for her lunch? You move 4 units to the right of negative 3 on a number line. On which integer do you land? Woohoo! You guys got 100%. Okay, So you understand integers, you understand the absolute value and the number line, okay? Do not forget all the rules. We have the addition, same sign rule, where you add them and keep the same sign. And we have the second unlike sign rule for addition, which is take the difference of the two numbers and use the sign of the one furthest from 0. Also, for subtraction, you're going to do two things. Plus the opposite and then follow the addition rules. All right? So you guys can go ahead and start working on your study packet. And let me know if you have questions. It's okay for you to work together. You don't need a calculator. Try to do without a calculator, okay?